Hello. Hi, welcome on behalf of Naukri. This is Harveen Bedi, welcoming you today on today's very special topic, which is managing layoffs and salary cutoff in the current crisis. And first, I'd like to just give you a brief introduction about myself. I'm Harveen. I'm a leadership career coach. I've got about 25 years of experience. I started my journey with Nestle in sales, then 17 years worked with Naukri, headed various recruitment services divisions like Quadrangle, Executive Search, eHire, shortlisting services. Uh, Over the last 2 years, to make a difference at a deeper level, I switched and transitioned into a leadership coach, an entrepreneur, with a mission to make lives and careers of 1 lakh people more meaningful and fulfilling. Now, enough about me. Let me welcome the panelists. First, I would like to welcome Mr. Muthukumar Thanu, who's the group CHRO of TAFE. He's a 1981 pass out from Madras School of Social Work. He's worked in companies like Devon Machines, BHEL, Whirlpool, Bharti, Murugappa Group, and across engineering, FMCG, telecom, fashion, and now in the auto industry. He's a certified assessor of Malcolm Malbridge Awards, CII Business Excellence Model. And he's been a regional chairman for CII, vice president of the HRD network, loves traveling, reading, philosophy, and also interior decoration. Welcome, Mr. Muthu.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy.
Next, I'd like to welcome Gautam. Gautam is a strategic, he's a CHRO of SKF India Limited. He's been a strategic human resource leader across countries, worked across India, China, Hong Kong, Australia, Southeast Asia. And he has managed shutdown of one manufacturing unit, facilitated transitions into two plant sell-offs, and he's leading 3 significant cultural transformations, which has led to improvement of market share, productivity, engagement of the workforce. And he's also established a leadership academy to enable people to grow from within the company. And we would love to tap into your experience, Gautam, on today's topic. Next in line, I'd like to welcome Mr. Srinivas Reddy, also popularly known as Srini. He's the Director of Human Resources for MetLife Global Operations. He's got about 12 years of experience working with MetLife, and he's worked in HR business partner roles, compensation benefits. He has had the unique opportunity of setting up their shared services business in Mexico also, which MetLife, which he manages from India. And he's also worked in companies like Genpact, Hero ITS. He's also a sports endurance specialist who's done 11 half marathons, 4 full marathons. And he cycled from Manali to Kardungla in 10 days. So a lot to learn from him. And next, I would like to welcome Mr. Krishna Kishore. He's the Global Talent Acquisition Head for Mindtree. And Mindtree, based in Bangalore, has over 23 years of experience in various talent acquisition, resource management roles. He has previously worked with NES as a global talent head, Aditya Birla Minax, Atos. Also did his own manpower consulting stint for a short time. And he enjoys cooking and replicating recipes. That's his passion. Welcome, Mr. Kishore. And then I would like to welcome Ashish Goyal, who's the Director of Talent Acquisition for VMware. Total 18 years of experience, father to 2 canines and 1 daughter who's just 2 years old. He's worked in various HR business partnering roles, COEs, in consulting and IT companies. And he's also worked in Accenture, Wipro earlier. And he's he is especially passionate about working on dog rescues with his wife in Bangalore. They have rehabilitated a lot of dogs, and they take sessions in their free time with people to take their fear out of dogs. So such a wonderful panel, and I'm really delighted to host this or to moderate this, where we get insights from such diverse people, diverse industries on today's topic. First, a little bit about this initiative. This is the 6th webinar in the Naukri series of webinar, which has been taken up by under the brand Step Up initiative by Naukri, which is basically in these times helping both recruiters as well as job seekers to assist them and make an ecosystem where they can benefit from the services of Naukri. So Naukri provides a bit of good trackers on what is happening in the market, gives free resources, some courses which are available online. For recruiters, for people who've been laid off, they give access to recruiters for free of those candidates who are marked as laid off. So they're not charged for viewing those candidates. And they're doing the bits and pieces now, starting a initiative to outplace people from certain companies. So today's topic is both a little emotional because it has uncertainty around it, layoffs in such a time, huge salary cuts in such a time, and it covers a little bit of feelings what people are going through, which is life is already difficult. There is a little fear, and expenses of people, their EMIs are still going on, and their incoming salaries have stopped coming, or they foresee them to being stopped in the near future, or halved, or let's say reduced. So without further ado, I'd just like to take the industry insights, because I'll start with Mr. Muthu. That what do you think are your views on the industries? Let's say in the auto industry, you're in the tractor industry. What has this pandemic caused? Layoffs, and how is your industry managing it? Because auto industry has been hit quite big.
Thanks, Mr. Bedi. I think auto industry is fairly large. I think I got my friend from SKF there too, right? Interestingly, the tractor industry is doing exceedingly well. Rural market is picking up. We had excellent rains. So therefore, the rural employment has gone up, right? It speaks for so much about migration of people going back to their villages in UP, Bihar, etc., etc. I think there is engagement waiting for them over there, okay? So agriculture is doing well. I think those who are participating in the forum, not the forum, I think those who are participating need to realize that food security is one of the fundamental pillars of the economy. I think on that front, our country has been doing well. It will continue to do well, right? So the rural economy is doing well, which is a good news as we move forward, right? The entire shoot for economy starts from there. So rural economy is doing fine. Having said that, auto sector, for two-wheelers, it's a green shoot. They actually see patches of growth, or that industry is about to take off. Okay, that's what I hear from the two-wheeler industry. However, transportation of goods, trucks, etc., it's still a problem. I think combined with the kind of the natural challenge that what we are faced with at this point of time, I think pandemic issue has been defining number of things. Is one of them. Unless the goods move around the country, you don't need to actually have those huge trucks transporting. However, mining sector, I think government has taken a few initiatives, etc., etc. So I think it's only a matter of time. People keep asking questions that when it will pick up. I'm not an economist, but however, I can talk about, I think 12 to 18 months from now, once we go through the struggle, the anxiety is far more than once you're having climbed the mountain, right? So I'm sure it's a matter of time. Some sectors are doing well, some sectors in transition. Even I think I got my friend from Mindtree, the technology industry. I don't think it's doing as badly. I think they are fairly reasonably fine, right? So things are not as bad as we think what it is. It depends on which side of the coin that you are in. It's 80-20. I think 60-70% things are fine. 20-30% is pretty bad, especially when somebody does not have employment at this point of time. I can be completely empathetic. Yeah, over to you, Mr. Bedi. Yeah.
Okay. Gautam, what would you like to add in terms of your industry? How's it handling layoffs or salary cuts, or if there are any, and what do you see? You'll need to unmute, Gautam. Yeah.
So first of all, thank you, Mr. Muthu. It's quite insightful points, I think. But just to add to the conversation, I think if you look at the industry, overall industry, I think there is a liquidity crunch and there is a revenue decline, and we need to accept the fact. Okay, there is 20 to 25% contraction of demand, and I agree with Muthukumar that there are sectors which are showing off green shoots. Like if you look at the current month numbers, the two-wheeler and the rural sector, they are growing, and we did not expect that much. I think there are some green shoots happening, but there is overall, I think there is a contraction of demand across the industry. There are issues around cost management, and the bigger cost is the people cost, and that's why, your point is about layoff and salary cuts, and I'll come to that. But there are three things which is troubling the industry today, or the companies today. One is the liquidity crunch, revenue decline, cost management, and bigger cost is the people cost. And to look at the growth of the industry, I think that discretionary spend is most likely to be the hardest hit, and automobile sector or other ancillary, they come under this purview. Now, it is very important to understand, how are we going to recover? So if you look at, so obviously the recovery always have two sides. One is the demand side driver and the supply side driver. We all know that. But I see that there is a pent-up demand due to supply restriction and due to the lockdown. And I think that will get released and we will see some kind of uptake on the revenue. There is seasonal and cyclical demand during the summer period, which we are going through. There is also a shift in consumer behavior or demand, and the exports in the global countries. I think that will impact the demand side of the driver, and of course the supply side of the driver. You well know that there is access to affordable capital, loan, and insurances. There is it will also have a dependence on return on the migrant labor largely. So if the demand side and the supply side driver are good, we will see some green shoots coming in few months. But there will be, we see a contraction in demand for at least end of this year, and to tune of 20 to 25%. But to your question, what you asked, Harbeen, about layoff and salary cut, see these two things differently. And a lot of people think that salary cut and layoff are equal, but they are not. Salary cut is about shared sacrifice, where we don't want our people to go or leave the organization. So I see when a company is doing a salary cut, it means that they don't want to let go of their people. And the layoff is, of course, it's upon the pressure on the P&L for the greater good of the organization, for supporting and managing the larger employment in the organization. So I think there has been a lot of negative sentiments around layoff and salary cut. But of course, we know that there will be impact on people. But largely, if you see, these actions are also to support people who stay in the organization, right? So my request is to look at these two actions, of course, from a different view, because it has a lot of negative sentiments around it. But last but not the least, I will accept that there is an economic tsunami which is coming. And when tsunami comes, it brings a lot of destruction. But we should also know that when tsunami resides, it brings a lot of the pearls from the ocean bed to the shore. And when it resides, you have to just walk and pick those pearls from the shore, and it become very easy for those who survive. So my message to this question, of course, is to let people figure out a way to survive, and rather than looking for some kind of upswing in their employment. Over to you, Harbeen. Arvind, you are on
Yeah,
mute.
yeah. So, Srini, what would you like to add from the insurance sector or the IT services sector?
So, Arvind, from an IT services standpoint, I mean, it is a pretty promising, and I don't think, and I agree with Gautam to an extent of saying that both salary cuts and impact on growth are going to be very different, right? So salary cuts we're doing to manage our balance sheet P&L to look good for the organizations so that it stays healthy, and then we move ahead. It's like, gaining muscle before, we start. Sorry, I'm going to share a sports example, but, before you get on to preparing for any sport, what you got to do is you got to have strength, right? Strength is really for your organization, right? To ensure that, people are strength, machinery is a strength, your P&L, your balance sheet has to look good, right? For those, you got to do different things. One could be your managing your cost line, bottom line, top line. Those are some of the things that you want to look at. Next is you gain your muscle, right? You understand where does the market value going to increase. A lot of companies, I'm sure industries right now are looking at gaining market share, market capital than what they have done look at in the past. Be it not just insurance industry, but banking, finance, BFSI, ITS, any of the organizations, they're really looking out opportunities where they can go ahead and increase and expand their market capital. And this is a great opportunity. I guess all the experiences that we've had in the past of 2008 or 2013 or 2002, 2001, I think they've got a bunch of learnings from there. And there are a lot of people who've already walked the path of dealing with ambiguity. And I think we should just pick those up. Every time the animal is going to be different, right? But we have to understand how do we deal with it and how do we take it forward. I guess it's a great opportunity, and it's a great green out there from a pasture standpoint. I guess that is where we should look at it, and look at it purely from an enterprising standpoint. That's my view.
Yeah, great. So, like Srini says, we should look at the opportunity today in what can happen and what else is possible. And Ashish, a quick one or two lines what you would like to add to this?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Bedi. I completely agree with whatever has been said so far. And this is what I see from a product company perspective as well. And there are a lot of the IT product companies out there that are actually using this time to invest, because this is the time to acquire people who may not be available at any other point of time. At the same time, and similarly, this is also the time to acquire other companies that may not be affordable at a different point of time. And that is what I see happening in the IT product space. And there are many CEOs and business leaders out there who have made similar statements, and they are following it up with actions as well. So you see a lot of activity in that space right now. So there is opportunity, frankly, at this point of time.
Sure. Kishore, would you like to add your input from your industry point of view, Mindtree's point of view?
Yeah. So fundamentally, while we see that there's a lot of news on layoffs and salary cuts, this is kind of happening in pockets. And while this is we're getting this news, also the fact remains that IT segment as such has been doing reasonably okay, fortunately. And all the companies are quite cognizant of the fact that they need to protect their workforce. People are very cautious about who are we hiring from the market, ensuring that there is a reasonable amount of scrutiny that is done internally to see how the workforce is utilized more efficiently. And said that if you've seen the overall IT scene for the last 20-25 years, we've always gone through these phases of one technology coming up, going down, one another picking up, another going down. The cycle has always been there, right? And now if you see, the whole cycle is again going into things like cloud, AI, ML, remote working, robotics, and these are the areas which are picking up big time, because the dependency again is increasing on that side. So in that way, the IT segment, I can say, is very fortunate, because the dependencies that keep on changing, and based on the market reality and adaptability, there is always a scope for enhancement and improvement in different areas. So I think it's a very positive time from that aspect of it. While of course, as Mr. Muthukumar mentioned, there is definitely an empathy part on some of our colleagues who would have lost a job, salary cuts. But definitely there's a brighter side to the whole thing also.
Sure. We're talking about managing layoffs, salary cuts in today's environment. And since most of the people are from Naukri job seekers, we'd like to do a quick poll to understand the reason why they would be seeking for a job. And so please specify the reason. The poll is there for all the Zoom people on Zoom. Kindly specify the reason. What, in case you're looking for a change in jobs, is it better career opportunities? Is it fear of being laid off? Is it salary cuts by the organization? Or you have already been laid off? It could be others, or you're not looking out for a job change. 31% are looking for better career opportunities. 13% have the fear of being laid off. 8% have salary cuts. 8% have been laid off. So today we have a huge which have been laid off. Then there are 4% who are not looking for it. So the question, Ashish, is will being laid off or having career gaps due to layoff how would it be looked at by HR professionals in your industry?
I think the situation is evolving quite significantly. I think the time where a layoff or a gap in the person's resume looking bad, I think that's a time of past. At the same time, I must acknowledge that we are in the phase of evolution. We are evolving our thought process in that regard. And I think what recruiters and leaders look for is, if there is a gap, what is the reason for that gap, and was the individual investing in themselves during that gap? Because I think we've all discussed that layoffs are a reality now, unfortunately. And hopefully, it stops very soon. But I don't think it's a taboo any longer to have been laid off. At the same time, like I said, I think it's very important that the person uses that time to invest in themselves. And that is what a recruiter or a leader, a business leader or a hiring manager would look for in the person's resume.
Sure. Mr. Muthu, would you like to add one or two lines to this? In your industry, how do you look at people who've got huge gaps in the resume because of being laid off?
I think I pick up the expression from him. I'll put that the other side, the positive side of getting laid off is someone goes on sabbatical for a year, couple of years. He comes back to me, do a question, and instead of sitting in the office, why did you go on Himalayan and cycling, right? So that's a positive side of it. I think if the industries are going through a cyclical pattern, right? And if I'm part of the cycle, I tend to be going through that, right? Somebody sitting in Kashmir might have lost 2 years of his education because there was strife, right? So similar way, I think the world has become more open. Our country has become more open. But the point, like what he mentioned, right? In that time, what did you try doing, right? I think that's what an employer would assess and measure.
Sure. Gautam, would you like to add something to this?
Yes, I think the point well made. See, getting laid off is no longer shameful in India, right? If the reasons are right. In fact, getting fired could be a testimony to a candidate's resilience and fire in the belly to bounce back, basically. While it is easier to admit and accept layoff situation, now culturally the stigma has not fully been eliminated. And finally, actually, it boils down to the overall track record and the reputation of candidate and how is pressing is the need of the potential employer, whosoever is hiring. I think there are two sides of the story, right? But professionals looking for a job increasingly they are open to say that they were laid off simply because it's not uncommon or rare as it was done before. And companies too are more willing to consider candidates who have lost their jobs. They are aware that redundancies or job losses are due to business circumstances, such as the current pandemic situation or the slowing growth or mergers acquisition or disruption by automation. All that possible cause are there, but it is important to understand what's the reason for the layoff or why it has been done. If the reasons are well established, I don't think any of the organization or professional would have any challenge around it. That's what I have to say.
Sure. So just summing it up, basically, if you've been investing in yourself and the industry is open to it, and as long as you are able to show what you've done during that time. Coming to the next question. What is the advice you would like to give on coping with emotional stress of people who have gone through layoffs or salary cuts? And how have you handled these kind of conversations in your respective organizations? So I'd like to start with Srini.
Yeah, so I think these are very, as Gautam was just mentioning, I think these are very common nowadays. I mean, these are not one of those, West Side country conversations only happening. These are pretty much in any kind of organization, any kind of industry today, these are pretty common. And that could be for multiple reasons. You get laid off for organizational restructuring, skills not being valid. You may get redundant because, there's a change in the business need. It could be anything, I guess, right? So one of the key factor, I guess, and everybody listening, I would recommend is, please go back to the drawing board. I guess getting fired or being out there on the market is not the end. I'm sure it's financial stress. I'm sure it is emotional stress. I'm sure it's not easy to go back. So I guess it is okay. It is fine. Things will get back. Keep looking forward. Do not, try to look back what went wrong, because more often than not, what's going to happen is 80% or 90% of the times, your thoughts are going to be, what went wrong? Why me? Why not somebody else? Right? This is the question that it keeps coming back in your mind. Maybe every 3 minutes, it keeps coming back. I don't know some analysis, but it keeps coming back on your mind again and again. Try to get away from that. That's very, very important. Try to get back to the drawing board, maybe sit down and write down and saying that, what are my skills? What is that I'm good at? What is that? One of the ways is go back to your historical performance discussions that you've had with your supervisor. What is it that your supervisor has told you that you're good at? Try to have, I'm sure there is trend line around it. I'm sure, all of us, will agree on this webinar talking, and everybody listening, that there are few themes that will be coming out when you had conversations with your supervisors, right? They would come back and say that you're good at maybe execution, maybe you're good at ability to have a conversation, maybe you're good at having a relationship, maybe drive for a sense of urgency is really good, your competency. If these are your competencies, make a list of it, go out, talk about them. What happens is more often not, we keep talking about our technical skills. We don't talk about our behavioral skills. What do we bring on the table, right? What am I bringing extra? It's given that everybody brings the educational qualifications, everybody brings the basic requirement that is there for a particular job, right? But what are you bringing more than that? Like it's these, technical, soft skills that are going to be really, really very, very important for you to really foster. So I think that's the way to deal with it. I would recommend everybody, to look forward, not to look back. What's happened has happened. Can you go back and change? You can't. Can you go back and make any, changes to the historical issues? No, you can't. So I guess you should leave away that. Start focusing on what can get better. There are a bunch of organizations hiring right today. It's all over LinkedIn. It's all over Facebook. I want you to go back. Please look at it. There are a lot of organizations that are hiring, a lot of organizations that are ramping up, very, very rapidly. So a lot of e-commerce, a lot of logistics organizations are ramping up like, 2x, 3x in the last 3-4 months. So why is it happening? What's happening? Go back, try to understand, see your skill set that are getting mixed. and ensure that your soft skills, your behavioral skills, your fungible skills are the ones that are getting mapped out there. I think those are the ways for you to deal with Harveen. I mean, that's the best way that you can really go up the value chain. Otherwise, it's always easy to go back. Right? It's always easy to fall back and say that, why me and why not somebody else? That's the way to deal with it.
Yeah, thanks for your inputs. Mr. Muthu, would you like to add something to people who are a little emotionally distressed right now on what they could do? Just 1 or 2 lines.
Okay. It's very easy for me to tell those people that, take it easy. But then while I'm in the situation, I think all that what I need to do is I need to open up my mind that there is always an opportunity. I met with somebody who came and approached me about a year back. The person was taken out of the job and he kept telling me that I was drawing 7.5 CTC. I would like to go for a job which is some 8.5, whatever is the number. Now, all that what you need to think is, one is I'm sure that all of you sitting over there or listening to this, you are not going to be unemployed forever in life. Just keep that in mind, right? It's just that intermittent interruption that has happened in your career life. Point number 1. Point number 2, CTC is important, but that's not everything in life, right? The guy sitting over here in the panel probably draw more salary than me. I'm just making a point, right? That doesn't matter. Whether you get learnability in the job, learnability is what is going to be taking you up in the career. Okay, just keep in the mind, right? There are a number of people, there are a number of systems out there to help you out. Like my friend said that, that there is LinkedIn, there is Facebook, there is Naukri. Name the people, everyone is there. Just keep the hope, keep trying. It's a matter of time that you make it, right? It's very, very important. In difficult times in life, whatever situation it is in, there's a theory in psychology which says 3 things a person would get into very, very difficult situation psychologically: loss of employment, loss of spouse, and divorce, right? But then these things keep happening in the lives of human all the time. It is no race, it is no country, it is no religion. You think I have not gone through it? I'm sure everyone would have gone through in our own way, but we made it up in life. The similar way, I think all of you sitting over there, it's a temporary period that what you're going through a challenge. There are a number of them out there to help. I think all that what you need to instill in your mind all the time is hope and just move on. Don't remain there. Don't be there where you are today, if in case you are there. That's a message to them.
I would like Mr. Kishore to add 1 or 2 lines of his advice.
Yeah, so I quite relate quite well to this situation because while I didn't get laid off, but I took a conscious decision to get into consulting as a business. And when you do that, it's very important for you to kind of, plan yourself, right? So one of the important requests I have for everybody on this forum is when you get laid off or there is a salary cut, don't hold yourself guilty or, feel guilty about what has happened, because that is the first fundamental thing you should never go through. There's the entire world is going through that phase right now, right? The other important is, I'm not kind of telling you from a professional side, but what actually happens here is more on a professional personal friend. It's important for you to find areas where you can go back to the family, discuss it. Don't kind of get into a shell saying something has drastically gone wrong with me, because that is what really kind of impacts you, right? The most important aspect in a situation like this is to see how you can come out of a stress that you're going through. And is there anybody who's going to help you listening, or a shoulder that somebody lend a shoulder to you so that, you can actually come out of the stress? Because doing anything in stress and achieving anything under stress is extremely impossible. And the other advice I have for everybody there is, when in a regular course, we always end up, having expenses, planning a lot of things. We do a lot of things which are maybe required, may not be required. I think it's important for you to go back to the drawing board and see what are the financial decisions that you need to make, what are the things that you need to postpone, what are the things you can hold back, so that actually brings down the stress on you on a personal front. The more that you de-stress on your personal friend on the expenditure side, because that is one area which actually really stresses you out, because your cash is burning every day and you are not able to understand what I need to do. And then if you can actually go back, see what are the results you got, how long you can survive with that, and what are the various activities you need to do to come out of that. that is the most important thing that you need to do. And a very serious advice for all of you, anybody who has been impacted by this, please take a medical insurance for your family. That is one big stress that all of you need to address, right? A lot of us don't realize that, but when it hits really, really hard. So I have just this to say.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Those were very good advice. Yeah, medical insurance, investing in yourself, and learning, taking this time to learn. What I would like to add to this is, remember what I've been talking earlier also, that you have to differentiate yourself from your job title. It is the job title which has been laid off. So if you are the sales head has been laid off because nobody could foresee what is happening today. No business head, no organization could foresee that I will not be requiring these people. Nobody could plan for it. So the sales head or the HR manager or the software developer is the title which has been laid off. You are a person who was doing that job for that company. Doesn't mean that you're not required for other companies. So first differentiate yourself that it's the title for a job, and because nobody could plan for it. Then, like most of the panelists said, invest in yourself, find out mentors who can go back to your performance discussions. Like Srini said, what are the things which you really do well? What are the things which you've been praised for in your life? And then see how can you monetize that talent? How can you monetize it? Whether it is small projects, whether it is doing some. So the way I see, or the way I also coach a lot of people who are going through this time, is that there are some problems which you only can solve. And you have solved them in the past. You have to find out who has that problem. You have to do the reverse thing, find out who has that problem, and then there'll be a way to monetize it. Whether it's a project, whether it's a contractual job, or whether it's a full-time job. That will keep coming and going. The second is invest in your learning, because this is a time to learn again what you're good at or what the world needs. What do the companies want? So that's my part, which and of course be in a positive community of people who are working around it. Don't be with people who are just sobbing or running their sob stories. Be with communities who are working around it, who are figuring out what is the opportunity. There are industries which are growing today because of what is happening. There are industries, let's say EdTech, education technology, companies like all these video conferencing technology. I'm saying they've had their best years. So healthcare systems, pharma, find out what is happening. Where is the opportunity which you can encash?
Harbin, I wanted to add on what you just said. I think, news channels are also doing a lot of damage. We need to consume the positive news and radiate the positive vibes, because if you look at, I was in a 3 months of lockdown in Gurgaon, and I will just keep watching these news channels. They have created enough damage to our mental being, right? And second, I would say we don't have to lose hope and optimism, right? We need to be realistic about the current situation, but be still optimistic about future. And the third, I would say that, we don't have to deny stress. It is okay to be stressed, and accepting it will actually enable it to deal it better. So my message to all of us is that let's accept that there is a stress. Yes, there is a stress. And last but not the least, I think it is very important to be in the lookout for, and protect near dear ones, ones who's got an impact and not telling us much, and what keeping things to themselves. They don't talk much to about their problems. I think as a family member, we need to be on the lookout for those people who are either talking too much or either they're really not talking anything, and then address through a conversation and manage the stress level. I think this is very, very important. Thank you, Harvey.
Thanks, Gautam. Those were golden words. So get out of the syndrome of why me. I'm saying just start working on yourself. And now moving forward, by the way, we have 15,000 people watching us on Facebook. Thank you all for joining in, and more than 1,000 on Zoom. Thank you again for joining. Yeah, the next question which has come up is that what are the practical ways to look for jobs quickly once you've been laid off? Okay, so for example, I can tell you, like Naukri, if you mark yourself as laid off, you're shown higher in the step up in initiative, higher in the search results. Recruiters are not charged. There are free courses available which you could do during this time, learn technologies. And Ashish, let me ask you this time, what are the practical ways do you think to look for a job if you've been laid off?
Harveen, I would reiterate partly what I said earlier, because investing in learning and, and the reason I say that is because at this point of time, when pretty much everything is virtual, the best of courses and certifications from across the world are available online now. Earlier, there were courses that many of us aspired to, but one would have to travel across the globe to attend those classes, and that was restrictively expensive. Now, many of these courses are available online, wherever we are. And that is why investing in these, in our own capabilities adds to, if nothing else, it adds to keywords on resumes. And that highlights the resume even further to recruiters, right? And the best of course is being available. When that shows up on your resume, that increases the chances of a recruiter picking up the resume. Does that make sense?
Sure. Mr. Muthu, would you like to add to that? What are the practical ways people can search for a job quickly?
It depends on the kind of industry that you come from. It depends on the nature of job that what you have been handling. I think you need to look into that, right? The way that you gain an entry into an auto industry is very different from the way that you get an entry into a telecom industry, or the way that you get into an entry into an insurance company. They're very, very different. So on that, what I say is the common theme is, I have a relative of mine who lived in the US for a long time, right? He wanted to start a business, and he told me he actually went and pitched with his product in about 100 companies before he got his final order. Now, no one is going to ask him a question, how he became successful in your life. So each one of them have their own way to find out, and there are a number of things available in front of them, right? The minute that hope starts getting instilled in you, you will actually start finding those opportunities. The more that you start thinking about why me all the time, that fourth stage of finding solution start getting diminished. I may be talking very, little. I mean that's where an individual. That's what he or she goes through. So it's important. Be hopeful. Find those avenues which will get you a break. While doing that, my suggestion is, I think there are about 40,000 people on Zoom, and I heard about 50,000 on Facebook. Now, don't talk about the CTC. CTC is just one fact of your career life, right? There are people who are drawing probably 4 times more than me, but they're not enjoying or learning the job that what I'm doing now. I am XYZ at your own level. So therefore, money is just one part, right? It's important that you get the opportunity where you learn the most, which actually gives a gratification of walking in the office in the morning and coming back in the evening with happiness. So therefore, there are opportunities available. If it is not today, it will happen 3 months from now, 6 months from now, right? It's a question of the way that you would like to pitch yourself, the hope that you instill in yourself.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for those lovely words. And Srini, any practical advice, any quick fixes to find the job fastest?
Yeah, the first thing is to go ahead and upload in Naukri. That's very important.
So you have to be there where the whole world is searching. Naukri has 50,000 recruiters searching on the database. If you're not there, then you're missing out.
Oh yeah, clearly. So that's I think hygiene. Let's put it that way. But other than that, I guess 2 things I would recommend. One is please do not hesitate to ask for help. right? Reach out to a friend if they know somebody in XYZ company, right? And if they don't know somebody, tap into their, your friends list. That's very, 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 very important. So do not hesitate to ask for help. I guess that's the first thing. Second thing, and I have 3 rules for this, right? So rule number 1 is you got to network. Rule number 2, you got to network. Rule number 3 is got to network. There is no other way for you to really go ahead and be there at the right place at the right time. I've had this question in my head for, I don't know for how many years. And I've asked, I think, every person, every mentor that I met up with, the only response that I could get back is clearly network. I think you've got to go out there and network yourself as much as you can. I know, network with people, and have a lot of weak links. Don't have a lot of times what happens is we are in this trap of having a strong link, and we have very few strong links, and we forget to have the many weak links, right? There's always a dichotomy between that. Should I have only few links which are very strong? Should I have many links which are going to be weak? I think you should always latch on to the later one. Have many links but have weak links, right? You get in touch with them once in a week, once in 2 weeks, or once in 3 months, or whatever it is. Not that there are always friends that we call up and say, acquaintances in the workplace that we call up every day, or sometimes 2 times a week or 3 times a week. Sometimes we get really jittered saying that I'm not talking to this guy, I need to talk to. I'm sure in work from home it's happening a lot, but it's very, very important that you network as much as you can, and tap into networks to network, right? You have a friend who's a weakling who's got a network. Ask him if he knows somebody else. If he doesn't know, then tell him to give you a link that could possibly be there in that industry. Right? I've experimented this multiple amount of times to reach out to the right person. I've done that, been there. I mean, I would recommend, please go out and network, ask for help. You will get it, right? You want sitting here, get in touch with somebody in Google, Facebook, any other organization. I'm just taking an example, but you can just go out and reach. Tap into network, very, 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 very important.
So that was great advice. Network, tap into your weak links. Don't only depend on your strong links. Tap into your weak links and speak to people. That's the most important part. I just saw a question pass by Akshay, which other people had also asked, is what about freshers? And I would just like to say, as freshers who offers have been postponed or who've not got the joinings happening, take up this time, master any practical skill which companies want. And these are skills which could be as simple as, but you have to master them. Like, there are people who are just doing fantastic PowerPoint presentations. There's a person I came across who's doing video editing course, and he's just editing videos. There's a person who's doing Facebook marketing course. And you have to become an expert in that. Once you become an expert in any field, and when you go and meet compared to the other freshers, you will always stand out. So just take a practical course. It could be advanced Excel for anything which you think, which organizations use. Ask around. And that stands you apart as a fresher. So I hope I answered your questions. Moving to the next question. What are the tips to negotiate a salary if you are laid off already? Ashish, so if somebody were to apply to VMware, what tips would you want to give him or her to negotiate the salary?
Well, VMware, like many other companies, is not basing the offers on the pay history of the person. The offers are anchored in the capabilities the person demonstrated in the interviews. It is anchored in, of course, internal parity of what our existing employees for similar jobs are earning. So I would think that, at least from the industry that I come from, it's actually not that difficult, because it, again, like I said, it depends on the capabilities that you demonstrate in the interviews. And that is where, sometimes it is good to, I often say this to people, that even if you're not actively looking for a job, even then, it might be beneficial to continue interviewing. And that builds our interviewing skills, right? So I've been in my current job for about 8 years. I've still taken up interviews at times because that continues to build my skill and enables me. Interviewing is also a skill because in an interview, that is your 1 hour opportunity to demonstrate your skills. And to demonstrate skills, that also is a skill, right? And that is why it is good to keep sharpening that particular skill.
Thanks. Thanks, Ashish. Mr. Kishore, would you like to add anything on salary negotiations at this point of time? Hello?
Yeah, speaking on it. So, Harveen, I fully agree with what Ashish was mentioning. Fundamentally, every individual professional is kind of, interviewed for the skills they bring to the table. And when, as an organization, we do a salary fitment, we don't do it keeping in mind whether they're in a job or outside a job. It is taken into several aspects, are taken into consideration, the parity within the team, the level at which they're coming. So these are the aspects that are taken into consideration, and then the salary fitment is done, right? So it's not that an organization is going to take an advantage of an individual because he or she is without a job at that point of time, and no organization does that. So, my request will be that when you're happy with the role that you're getting into, for the designation that you applied for, and the organization is kind of coming back to you with the salary that actually is at par with your experience and organizational parity, I think in a situation like this, better not to get into too much of negotiation, but we go with what the organization gives, because nobody would want an employee to come inside and be unhappy with what the organization has, pegged them out, right? So every organization is cognizant of this fact.
So just to sum it up, so basically, the salary is a factor of the skills you bring to the table, and most of the organizations, it is a factor of how much value do you add to that company. So if you're adding immense value, salary is not an issue, but you should be very sure how much value you're adding. So let's say if a sales guy were to go to Srini and say, I can get you $1 billion contract and I need $1 million for it, I'm saying he would listen to you, right? So it's basically how much value can you add? It's not what you want. Salary is not that I want this. Companies will not give you because you want it. They will give it to you because they think you have the skills, you have that proven expertise and the potential to solve that problem. So salary is basically is net of what value do you add to the company. Will outplacement services emerge as a new trend? What do you see in the organizations? Is outplacement service? Naukri has also started one of the outplacement services where they go help under Step Up to help companies figure out how employees can transition to a better career. Companies want to make it softer. So I'd like to ask Mr. Muthu, with your experience, and then later Gautam can also add because he's managed 2-3 plant sell-offs, so he could add later. Yeah, Mr. Muthu.
Yeah, I'll just take a minute, not even a minute, 30 seconds on the previous point. I think somebody was talking, asking a question, probably looking at a very clinical answer. Once you go for salary negotiation stage, you are almost 90-80% done, right? Given the context that you are in, don't lose out. So long as it does not prick your sense of pride in terms of the ability what you have, so long as you don't feel that your capability is being highly undermined, I think you should go for it. 10% this side, that's it, should not make a difference. The word negotiation itself, there's a winner and loser. Now, don't be a loser. I think both should gain. The organization should gain and you should gain. Okay, that's the first point. I think second one you're talking about, I think outplacement is gaining momentum. As much as talent acquisition is positive of you trying to provide engagement to somebody, you trying to utilize the capability of an individual, etc., etc., etc. Even outplacement is that way. You're actually enabling individuals to find something meaningful where they can utilize their potential better, right? Today, layoff, for want of a better expression, it's just not happening because the person is not up to the mark. It's happening to number of other sum of factors. The industry that you are in, the journey what you're going through, the external environment, there are a number of factors acting on it. So it's just not the capability. So therefore, outplacement is becoming a science as much as the opposite of the in-placement, the talent acquisition, right? So I'm sure that Naukri probably this side of space also may get bigger as we move forward.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else would like to add?
So having managed a couple of transitions, large transitions, my experience has been little different in terms of outplacement. People have the purpose of outplacement. People think that it is about getting the person a job, right? But how I experienced when large people were laid off, I think we have to give them a full holistic experience step by step, where it is about hand holding them, like from a creation of resume to the cover letter to counseling and to managing their mental health, having conversation and to getting them a job. I think there is a whole journey. So calling them an outplacement service, it water downs the whole purpose of what we want them to give, because the context is such that moment you are laid off, you want to talk to somebody. You want a person who can give hope and a practical solution both. I think that is what we are requiring in outplacement services, and maybe we can rename the whole thing about hand holding at every touch point in 6 months or maybe beyond that. So that's what I think my experience has been. And to answer your question, yes, I think whether outplacement services will emerge or not, but there is a holistic bundle of services in and around outplacement services will emerge. And I have looked at your, I think there is an initiative under Naukri. I think they have bundled it so beautifully, and they are not even calling outplacement service. I don't remember if there is a step up or there is one more. I think so. I am forgetting it, but the bundling has been done so well that is the kind of service which will emerge in the country or across the world.
Yeah. Thank you for your tips. And so it's basically outplacement is more not about getting the person a job, it's hand holding the person step by step across a period of time, both emotionally, giving practical tips and helping the person figure out what is good in him, assessments, and then probably helping them to what courses they should do, and then taking them further. So now we have some questions which have come from the job seekers, and I've just picked out some.
Would request all the panelists to mute their mic.
Yeah, I have some questions which I'd like to ask, which have come. So let me start with Ashish. Ashish, is there any term like job security now? How should we ensure we are enhancing our careers even in these tough times? Although I would like to start with saying job security is quite far away. There is company security is also not there, whether the company will exist or not. You've seen big companies merge and companies like Vodafone, Idea merge, and some companies disappear, being eaten out. But anyway, I'd like to hear your inputs on.
True, and yeah, I mean, we've seen in the last bust that happened, I think I think 2008-ish time, we saw some very large banks disappear. We've seen in recent times fairly large car rental services disappear, right? So it's an interesting time. So yeah, this is a tough question. That is job security there? I would say yes and no, because while there are unfortunately quite a lot of people who have been impacted, at the same time, like we've discussed in this webinar, there is a lot of hope as well. Not everybody's being laid off. And it is the business situation of many companies which is mandating these decisions. At the same time, because it's a business decision, it's not a personal decision, it's not a person-based decision. So it's this business decision is frankly outside of the sphere of influence of many of us, right, as individuals. And that is why let's focus on what we can do. What is it within our sphere of influence, what is within our sphere of control. And that is frankly a couple of things that we've been talking about here in this call. And I would take that one step further. Number one, like Srini said, network. Have a large network, even if a large portion of that network is weak links. Be shameless in reaching out to people. Build those connects. At times, rebuild connects that you lost over a period of time. That's one. Number two, at this point of time, mental health is very, very important. And for different people, it is different things which create that mental health or add to the mental health. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, it is reaching out to people. And that's where I would say that, build what is called your board of advisors. Like every company has a board of advisors, board of consultants. Every individual should have that too. And that could be friends, that could be family, that could be professional coaches, right? So build that board of advisors for yourself. And another thing that I'm personally a fan of, and I've spoken about this earlier, build an annual fund for yourself for self-learning. An annual fund and an annual target of what you want to add to yourself in any year. And if a year has gone by where you've not added skills to yourself, that's a year lost in a sense, right? So just these three quick things to that point.
Great. And I would just agree. A lot of times people working in the companies feel that it's the company's job to train them. Well, the company will train them on whatever it requires them to do, but each individual should put in a percentage of their salary annually on their self-learning on things which they want to learn, how they want to progress. And it could be anything. It could be related to their work. It could be related to even their hobbies, but they have to invest in themselves to learn, to do courses. And you have immense number of courses available, from even learning how to bake a cake to machine learning. I'm saying it depends on whatever you want, but you need to invest on yourself. It is your responsibility. Coming to the next question, I'll take Srini. Srini, what are some of the ways to approach recruiters during these times? If you have any quick tips here.
Yeah, so a couple of things I think I'm going to repeat a couple of them is that one, try to be on the place where everybody can see. If it's Naukri, if it's LinkedIn, if it's anything else, whatever it is, because there are common places where everybody goes and looks out for people. So that's one thing definitely needs to be done. Second, as I said, network, go out, reach out to people. If there is anything, explore. Third, if you're still not getting anything, I think the best is that you got to pick up what comes your way. That there are going to be jobs that will come up which did not exist, and there are going to be jobs that will not exist that are existing in the past or existing today, in fact. So I think it's very important to acknowledge it, learn it, and then move ahead. Please do not wait for that ideal role that you want or you're looking for, or maybe it's a lower comp, maybe it's a different designation that you want to pick up, right? So I would recommend just go out there and pick up. Don't wait for it, because if you wait for it, you may miss the bus. You may not be there, willing to take the chance and then take the plunge. I would recommend just go ahead, pick it up. I think there are going to be different opportunities that will open up, which you did not foresee, did not anticipate. I think you should just wait for it. That's the way I would recommend that we should look at it clearly.
Thanks for valuable tips here, Srini. And Mr. Kishore, I'd like to ask you the next question. By the way, we've reached 50,000 people on Facebook Live. So this just tells us how relevant this topic is right now and how much people want to know from all of you. Yeah, so Mr. Kishore, how would the interview and the selection process change during these times compared to what it was pre-COVID? How do you think it is going to be now in the future?
So, Harveen, one important aspect is, COVID-19 has brought in the kind of disruption which none of us ever anticipated, right? With the way that things are going, and especially in the IT sector, remote working is kind of becoming a norm of the day. And if you look at it, the overall traditional belief that work from home, the productivity levels are going to drop. But contrary to that, what we are seeing is the productivity levels have exponentially gone up. And the way we structure the kind of work we do, the possibility of working remotely is very high. And the way things are going, I think this is going to continue. And the way what we are seeing is, because of this whole change in the mindset and the way things are happening right now, the whole interview process, is completely going to shift from, face-to-face concepts, people coming to remote kind of validation. Everything is going to be remote. Onboardings are going to be remote. And the companies going forward, I think, is going to become very cautious in the whole selection process, especially in a situation like this. Because nobody wants to take a decision where it will have any kind of impact on an individual in the career, on short-term decisions. Nobody wants to make any ad hoc kind of a decision, especially on the interviews and selection process. And the more important aspect, I think, that is going to evolve in near future and coming days, I think what we have been talking about, borderless kind of a scenario, seems to be emerging real fast. With this whole remote work culture coming into place. The constraints of travel, wanting the people to come to a certain location only to get into the job, I think that's going to take a back seat is what I feel, because slowly people are opening up to the concept that, you can stay wherever you are and deliver. I'm happy with it. I mean, more from the IT segment. It may not be applicable to all the other segments, but that is how I see it happening. But the whole interview processes, I see it becoming more and more stringent going forward, the selection and the interview process.
Thanks for your inputs. Yeah, I'd like to meet to Mr. Muthu. Where do you see, I know it's difficult to say when will the job market bounce back, but if you could put some light on what are the big trends which you're seeing, which would change post I'm saying the current times and post the pandemic. What are the trends in the job markets which you see will change?
I think the way they made me an economist, now you're making me an Alvin Toffler now. Right? Wanting me to predict the future. Now, all that I can say is I think I picked up a lot from...
You're the most experienced, sir. You've been through lots of ups and downs. So we're looking at...
I think it's wonderful listening to the panel members. 2, 3 things, I think about half a dozen things should happen. Things which are virtually done, I think it's on the take-off stage. The way that we are making use of Zoom now, I think probably the utilization of Zoom is maybe 100, 200 times more than how it was utilized. The future is going to be, I think the virtual working is going to be one of those defining things as we move forward. Okay, number one. Second, we need to be awakened to the fact things that we have been used to or things which you are comfortable, they are not just going to move away. For example, that if I'm used to transporting myself with a car, overnight the transport is not going to move away, right? So the industry might see a slowdown, whichever industry the participant belongs to. I think he or she needs to keep it at the back of the mind. Things are not just going to fade away. Okay. However, there are some redefining things. For example, I don't see the travel industry waking up for next maybe 24 to 36 months. This is just my guesstimate, right? But I wouldn't say the same thing about a truck or a car industry or a two-wheeler industry, right? I think when it comes to banking, financial services, I think you must have heard of Aditya Puri. He was talking about India waking up to, in about 12 to 18 months, he said that it'll fall back in place, right? There's so much of positivity. Your GST collection has gone up from 65,000 crores or 60,000 crores to about 90,000 crores in a month's time. So things are happening. I think about half a dozen sectors will continue to remain the way they have been. Some of them will be opening up completely newly, like working in a virtual space, right? I'm sure that technology is going to redefine a number of things. So that would be a huge opportunity. And all these phases, I think I've seen 37, 38 years of my career. I think right from Y2K till liberalization, I think at every phase it has taught something, and we are lost it. I think all those who are participating, one needs to understand that career is a marathon, right? Career is not a 100-meter sprint, right? In marathon, you need to pace your speed. That becomes critical. Sometimes you may faint. Sometimes you may faint and you may fall down, but you walk. You get up and again you start running. I think career is like a marathon, right? So there would be opportunities. I don't think when you have a population of 1.3 billion in this country, and there are opportunities. China is slowly closing down. I think number of industry will come back to this country. Now the minister spoke this morning that the electronics industry, they would like to provide an opportunity. Things would only open up.
Thank you. And so that was a really good input, that career is like a marathon, not a sprint. And people need to adjust as per the pace of it. So Gautam, the next question is for you, which I've seen a lot of people also ask on the chat box. Atul also asked, I think, that it has almost become impossible to get jobs at senior management level. What should be done to people who are, let's say, 45 plus 50 in that age group? Gautam, you'll need to unmute.
Yeah, thanks, Haveen, for prompting me again and again. Okay, so see, first we need to examine the word which people often use, impossible. I think first we have to get rid of this mindset altogether, that is it really impossible? I don't think it's impossible. It's just a phase, and it's just a context, and where we are caught up into a doom loop or economic tsunami. It is going to recede, or it is going to go away. So that's one. Finding a job at a senior management level is very procedural in nature. And why I say very procedural in nature, like, you heard Srini talking about, Ashish talking about, and Kishore and Muthu talking about multiple aspects of finding a job, wherein I think I would say moment you lose a job, I think first and foremost is to step back, plan, prioritize, and relax a bit. I think that's very, very important. We need to take a break at that particular point, because it is very important to plan and prioritize in the right way. Second is, I think, of course, I talked about the mindset which needs to be relooked at or examined. The second piece is about, I think Srini very well talked about, your first, second, and third is network. I think that's, for a senior management, works like a recipe. You have to network with folks and with the right folks, because see, the senior management roles are very well circumvented by the senior consultant. And in country we have some top 10, Naukri being one, but there are other great consultant who has almost like a cartel circumvented this entire position at the senior level. So I think we need to network with them. We need to showcase what do we bring onto the table in terms of how are we going to add value, what are the transformation work we have done in past, and how have it resulted in benefiting the organization. Because see, the talent pool has widened in last 6 months, and there will be more takers for a job. Now the organization is going to be very, very careful in selecting those leaders who have really done transformation. And also, there will be a good negotiation from an employer side on the kind of competency they have. And that's the strategy. Like if you look at SKF strategy, what we are in a high drive on recruitment, because we need to shift the future competency, and those future competency, whether it's AI, mechatronics, all these we are getting into a much optimized cost. And I think for organization, like us, whether it's a senior level leaders role or a middle management role, we have huge opportunity to shift the whole paradigm of the new competency. And it is coming with the best cost. And when it is coming with the best cost scenario, I think it is okay for an organization to take a risk on talent and see whether they are working they are really bringing transformation or not. So that's one. So coming back to the topic, I think networking at the right consultants is very prime. Prepare yourself very well. I think whether it's a CV or the cover letter, going very mundane, and prepare for D-Day. When I say D-Day, because in this kind of talent market, you will only get 1 or 2 chances, right? And then you have to convert those 3 positions into one of the offering. And I think that's where it is almost like a preparation, like a Six Sigma level. We don't have to say something, do proper research, sectorial analysis, what have you bringing into the table. I think that is the key for success at the senior level. So that's what I would say,
Yeah, Gautam, I think beautifully put. So way I would say is also try and work with some mentors and people who know the industry, work with people who can take out what is that is unique about your experience, because every person who's gone through such a vast experience of 25, 30 years has done things, some things unique to that person. Find out what is that unique potential and then figure out how to pitch it to the right person. And don't say that it's a permanent job which you're looking for. It could be a project. So to give you an example, I worked with a person who was at 35 lakhs, got laid off, no job. He was at 55 years of age, no job for the last 1.5 years. And when I worked with him, I took out what exactly were his skills which he was good at. And he went to a company where he could see that this is the problem which they were having. They were having some distribution problem in South, and he was a great South distribution guy. And he said, I'm going to solve this problem for you, and I'll just take 6 months. And he got the contract for 6 months for 25 lakhs. I'm saying, so it's not about just a job. It's about how can you add value and get paid for it. It could be a contractual job. It could be consulting. It could be doing your own thing, or it could be a job also. I'm saying you have to keep your mind open. Once you become 45, 50, the traditional methods typically don't work as well. It's your network which will vouch for your potential and the problems which you solve. Coming back to the next question, Ashish, how to handle the anxiety in the team if they see a team member being laid off?
I would answer this question in 2 parts because the response would be different for different audience. For example, for people leaders, for managers, it's very important for them to talk, to communicate with their team and be as transparent as is possible and be authentic and make it a deliberate effort to be authentic because that communication, that honest communication is going to help people manage their stress, because like it or not, leaders own the responsibility of helping their teams manage stress. And let's acknowledge these are stressful times and it's not going away anytime soon, this kind of stress. So for people leaders, communicate, be as authentic as can be. For individuals, I think it's very important to not add to any speculation. If there is speculation, if there are rumors out there, it's very important to, number one, not create those rumors, number two, not add to those rumors, because that can create stress for others around us. And there is a way for that stress to come back. And at the same time, also for everybody involved, for everybody in the team, for the longer term, it's important to invest in mental health. And like I said earlier, there are different things for different people. Sometimes for some people, it's about talking to their friends, family, or a coach. It could be meditation. Some people derive strength, mental strength from their faith, from their religion. And Srini is there, so I would give a sports analogy as well. For some people, it's indulging in sports activity, outdoors or indoors. So yeah, different things for different people, but do whatever works for you and build that mental strength for yourself.
Thanks, Ashish. Now I'll just do some quick questions where you could just answer in about 20 seconds so that we could cover more and more questions. Srini, could you throw some lights on some of the jobs in your industry which have not been impacted by, which you would still be hiring for?
I guess across IT and ITS, and I'll have Kishore also talk about it. I don't think there's been any job that's been impacted severely. I guess, most of the IT companies are up and running. They're all shifted to quickly to do a work from home.
Mm-hmm.
I guess most of the jobs are up and running there. I only feel that there is going to be this digitization fast track that's going to happen. What had to happen maybe 5 years, 8 years down the line, I think companies will start doing it now. So I only feel that in the next year or so, most of the ITS companies are going to really fast track their whole digitization plan. So they're going to be roles on analytics, data science, digitization. These roles are going to really be on a demand. But I think somebody can focus there, will be able to have an edge over others.
Got it. Thanks. There's just one question I saw in the chat box a little early, is that somebody is saying that placement consultants were asking money for placing you. Please, I've been in Naukri, I've worked there, I've seen this. This is all fraud. Nobody can guarantee you a job by taking you money. So please beware of anybody who's asking you money to get you placed. You can attend trainings, you can learn skills, but nobody can guarantee you a job by taking money. Yeah. So the next question I'd like to address to Krishna: how to utilize this time to enhance the career if you don't have a job and you have a gap of these 3 to 4 months. What else can you do?
So I think this has been addressed in different stages of this conversation that we have been having at various speakers. But one of the important things I think is important for us to go to the drawing board, analyze our strengths and weaknesses. I think is very important to a kind of a SWOT analysis. Understand our strengths and how do we leverage our strengths, and how do we kind of take through the various training programs or educate ourselves or invest in ourselves to ensure that we are further enhancing our profile. So that is one important aspect. That is provided that you're already out of the job and you're kind of trying to do things for yourself. And like Ashish mentioned earlier, there are a lot of courses available today, unlike we had to travel and take the courses. You can do it remote. Those who are already part of the organization and where the job pressure is less, I think organizations are investing tons of money on providing internal training, online platforms for people to kind of upskill themselves and learn new technologies. So it's important that it's for people to kind of consistently spend time on how they want to upgrade and upskill themselves and bring in a value add for themselves and also for the organization, and make themselves noticeable. That is what is important, because a lot of times what happens is a lot of people spend a lot of time and energy on upskilling, but it just stays with them. But it's important that start contributing for the organization. Let people notice that you're competent in that area, because nobody's going to come and give it on a platter saying that, oh, okay, you undertook the training, so come and do this, right? So you need to proactively go and start presenting yourself, showcase your capability. I think that is what is asked of the hour.
Sure. So don't stick to your KRA, guys and girls, that this is only my KRA, I'm just going to do that. Go get yourself noticed, do projects, take up assignments, take up responsibilities which are there in the organization. Just volunteer for them. Yeah. Coming to Mr. Muthu, the question for you is that how should one manage financial stress during these times? If you due to salary cuts or whatever, so people have EMIs to pay. People have how do they manage financial stress?
Okay. Now, I think this thought needs to get into the minds of all those participants over here. A salary cut is not at all a stress. You may be wondering that why I'm talking like this. That's because we don't think of future and save, right? If you're part of your salary about maybe about 30, 35, 40%, depending on the person, if it's not getting into the saving element, there's some concern about the way that you do the financial planning. It can be through PF, your superannuation, or maybe your mutual fund investment, etc., etc. You need to start saving if you don't want to be insecure about your future, right? It has to. I think there's a vast difference between the generation of today and the generation of mine, right? I'm fairly comfortable because even at the young age, I thought of future and got into those things. I think today, even today, I mean, not. I don't think it's right for giving such examples. I think you need to start doing that. I think no quality of life of yours is going to be affected that very badly by you going through a salary cut of maybe 20%, 30%, 15%. I do not know what's the percentage. I don't think we are not at the level of a shop floor associate who's probably an ITA or a diploma holder who's actually assembling machinery. You're not in that kind of a situation. You're an engineer, at least most of you. You're a sales executive. You're at the start level of your managerial career, right? I think to me, if you actually sit down and try to find out, is the salary cut really affecting me? Maybe, maybe not. At least in my own assessment, it does not really.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, so please understand. So you need to learn how to manage money. And this is one pandemic which has gone, but typically the way I would also agree to Mr. Muthu and say that you need to put a habit of saving. So whether it is 10% of your salary, 20% of your salary, whatever, for your long-term benefit, for your wealth creation, for your whatever equity shares, or whichever way you invest in. And if you don't know it, ask your financial advisor who you trust. Go to people who know this. There are enough people who know about how to manage money. Go and ask them. Coming to Gautam, what should one do if someone lost his job in lockdown and got a new job but with a lesser salary? What should one do to bridge the salary gap quickly?
I think it's a very good question, but most of the employer are, and you have to understand this, they are businessmen, and most of us are a businessman, right? And we treat talent as a portfolio. Now, even if you've got a job and if it is on the lower salary, I think all what we could do is to focus on how can we add value to the business, right? And the moment you add value to the business, and all the talent managers or the HR folks or the business guys, they know the worth of the value add. I don't really think, other than focusing really a super laser focus on your job, how to add value, you should be doing anything else. Yeah. Because a lot of people get into a dynamics of managing a boss and this. I think when you focus at this context and this time, laser sharp focus on your performance deliverables, how can you give more from less, or how can you give more to less? I think that is the mantra I would suggest to all of you, and rest can automatically happen, because no businessman will let a good talent go is adding value to the business, and they will do a salary correction, they will go for a role enhancement or international opportunity. I think those will follow. My sense is, I think role and delivery is more important. Adding value is more important. Rest is always taken care of. You really don't have to do anything.
Yeah, very, very true words, Gautam, that as long as people are adding value, the money will keep coming in. Grateful to all the panelists, Mr. Muthukumar, Ashish, Srinivas, Mr. Kishore, for sharing candidly all your views. And we hope we were able to assist job seekers to get out of this crisis, get some insights on how to manage it and move forward with optimism.